At 71, Jerry Seinfeld, the legendary stand-up icon who redefined American comedy, has opened up like never before. In a rare and heartfelt moment, he shared the names of 6 comedians who deeply touched his life, shaped his humor, and earned his lasting admiration. These are not just names, they are storytellers, rebels, and geniuses who made Jerry laugh, think, and grow. Some of them inspired him as a young man, while others reawakened his love for comedy much later. Get ready for an emotional, surprising, and sincere tribute from a man who gave the world so many laughs. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Jerry Seinfeld's journey in the world of comedy has been nothing short of extraordinary. From humble beginnings in New York, small clubs, to creating and starring in Seinfeld, one of the most successful sitcoms in television history, Jerry has left a lasting mark on the world of entertainment. His clean, observational humor resonated across generations, setting him apart from the rest. But behind the fame and fortune was a man who quietly observed, listened, and appreciated the brilliance of others. Despite rarely diving into personal opinions about his peers, Jerry has finally broken his silence to recognize 6 comedians who truly influenced and impressed him throughout his career. These are individuals who either mentored him, challenged his creative process, or simply made him laugh in ways no one else could. Jerry. Appreciation for these comedians is not just professional, it is personal and emotional. Over the decades, Jerry was known to keep a small circle, and when he praises someone, it carries deep meaning. Each name on his list reflects a unique trait he admired: timing, originality, boldness, or sheer charisma. Whether they were legends of the past or contemporary stars, these 6 comedians earned a special place in Jerry's heart. And today, for the first time, he shares it with the world. Number 1. George Carlin. When Jerry Seinfeld speaks about George Carlin, his eyes light up with a mixture of respect, awe, and nostalgia. Carlin was not just a comedian to Jerry, he was a thinker, a rebel, and a poet with a microphone. Known for his fearless takes on politics, religion, and society, George Carlin pushed the boundaries of stand-up in ways that permanently changed the landscape of comedy. Jerry has often admitted that, while their comedic styles were vastly different, with Jerry leaning toward clean, observational humor and George embracing darker, edgier themes, he deeply admired Carlin's command of language and truth. In Jerry's words, Carlin was the guy who turned comedy into a mirror, one that reflected not only what was funny, but what was real. Jerry was especially moved by Carlin's work ethic. Carlin wrote constantly, rewrote religiously, and treated each performance like a crafted piece of art. That discipline and devotion inspired Jerry to refine his own writing process. He was not just entertained by Carlin, he was educated. There was one moment that stuck with Jerry. After watching Carlin HBO special in the early 1990s, Jerry sat in silence, overwhelmed by how Carlin could make an audience laugh and think so deeply at the same time. That night, Jerry said he realized that comedy could be both elegant and revolutionary. George Carlin was not just a funny man. To Jerry, he was a master and one of the greatest minds comedy ever knew. Number 2. Richard Pryor. For Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Pryor was a blazing fire in the world of comedy, untamed, brutally honest, and completely unforgettable. While Jerry's own comedy stayed within clean lines and subtle observations, he always looked up to Pryor as the fearless soul who walked straight into the fire and came back with laughter in his hands. Jerry has said that Richard Pryor spoke truth that nobody else had the courage to say, and somehow he made it funny. What impressed Jerry most was how Pryor used pain, vulnerability, and his own life chaos to create something powerful and universal. To Jerry, it was not just stand-up, it was storytelling at its rawest. There is one performance Jerry never forgot: Pryor live act in the 1970s, where he openly talked about addiction, racism, and personal failure. It shocked audiences, yet made them laugh until they cried. That level of emotional honesty had a lasting impact on Jerry, who realized that great comedy is not just about jokes, it is about truth. Despite their different tones and audiences, Jerry considered Pryor a true genius. He admired how Richard could be hilarious and heartbreaking within the same breath. He broke all the rules and in doing so, created a new blueprint for generations of comedians. Jerry once said, "You can learn 100 things from Richard Pryor in just 5 minutes." That is why he remains one of the most influential comedians in Jerry's life, a true original. Number 3. Don Rickles. To Jerry Seinfeld, Don Rickles was not only a comedic legend, he was a force of nature. Known as Mr. Warmth, Don Rickles mastered the art of insult comedy, but beneath every jab was an unmistakable sense of love, charm, and respect. Jerry grew up watching Don tear into audiences with razor-sharp wit, but what stuck with him most was not the laughs. It was the heart behind them. Jerry often described Rickles as fearless on stage, yet kind off it. He admired how Don could walk into a room, destroy everyone with his humor, and somehow leave people feeling more loved than mocked. That delicate balance, to be biting but beloved, was something Jerry found magical. They eventually became close friends, and Jerry never took that friendship for granted. When they appeared together on talk shows or shared quiet dinners, Jerry saw firsthand the warmth behind the sarcasm. Don had a deep understanding of people. He could read a room better than anyone and adjust his punchlines with surgical precision. One of Jerry's proudest moments was having Rickles on his show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Watching Don perform, even in his later years, reminded Jerry of the golden age of comedy, of nightclub stages, smoky backrooms, and pure charisma. Jerry loved Don Rickles, not just as a comedian, but as a man who gave everything to his craft and left audiences smiling, even after the sting of a joke. Number 4. Joan Rivers. Jerry Seinfeld had immense admiration for Joan Rivers, a trailblazer who broke every barrier placed in front of her. For Jerry, Joan was not only a brilliant comedian, she was a warrior. She carved a path through a male-dominated industry with sharp wit, unmatched timing, and an iron will, and Jerry loved her for it. What struck Jerry most was Joan's resilience. She faced rejection, betrayal, and devastating personal loss. Yet she never stopped performing. Whether it was on stage, television, or the red carpet, Joan was always working, always creating, always fearless. Jerry admired her grit, the way she never apologized for being herself, for being loud, bold, and brutally honest. He often said that Joan had the guts of 100 men and could say the most outrageous thing and somehow make it charming. Jerry appreciated how she did not just tell jokes, she challenged norms, poked fun at power, and revealed hard truths with a smile. Their appearances together were electric. On talk shows or at comedy events, Jerry watched Joan command attention without effort. She was fast, fierce, and had that rare ability to make even the most uncomfortable topics hilarious. Jerry always believed Joan never got the full credit she deserved as a comedy genius. That is why she makes his list not just for being funny, but for being brave, relentless, and unforgettable. To Jerry, Joan Rivers was comedy royalty and always will be. Number 5. Bill Cosby. Before controversy clouded his legacy, Jerry Seinfeld admired Bill Cosby for a very specific reason: his storytelling. Jerry often credited Cosby as one of the first comedians who showed him the power of painting pictures with words, without needing to shout or shock. In the early days of his career, Jerry would listen to Cosby albums repeatedly, studying his rhythm, pacing, and the way he built a story from anything as simple as a trip to the dentist. Jerry saw Cosby as a master craftsman, someone who could keep an audience leaning forward, fully engaged, using only his voice and imagination. It was that subtle control, that calm confidence on stage, which influenced Jerry's own comedic philosophy. He believed comedy could be powerful without being loud, and Cosby's early work reinforced that belief. However, in later years, Jerry has addressed the public fallout surrounding Cosby with caution and honesty. While he could not ignore the serious allegations and pain surrounding Cosby's name today, Jerry never denied the profound impact Cosby's early performances had on the art of stand-up and on him personally as a young comedian trying to find his own voice. It is a complicated place of reflection for Jerry, but he remains grateful for what he learned from Cosby work, even as he acknowledges the complexities of separating the art from the artist. In Jerry's eyes, Bill Cosby once stood as a symbol of comedic precision and narrative brilliance. Number 6. Gary Shandling. For Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling was not just a friend, he was a kindred spirit. Their friendship was quiet but deep, built on shared values, respect for the craft, and endless late-night conversations about comedy, creativity, and life. Gary was the kind of comedian who never shouted for attention, but always left a lasting impact with his thoughtful, layered humor. Jerry admired Gary's brilliance in creating shows that broke the mold. It's Gary Shandling's show and the Larry Sanders Show were unlike anything else on television at the time. They were clever, meta, and deeply human qualities that Jerry respected immensely. Gary's work showed Jerry that comedy could be innovative and intimate, smart and emotional, all at once. But beyond television, Jerry was moved by Gary's kindness. He once said, "Gary was the kind of person who would make you laugh and then check to see how your soul was doing." That emotional intelligence, that spiritual depth, made Gary more than just a comic. It made him a rare human being in a tough industry. When Gary passed away in 2016, Jerry mourned him not just as a peer, but as someone who understood comedy in its purest form. His influence is still felt in Jerry's style, in his thinking, and in his heart. To Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling was a quiet genius who left behind laughter, wisdom, and a hole that few could ever fill. At 71, Jerry Seinfeld reflections are not just about laughter, they are about legacy. The 6 comedians he named were not only masters of their craft, but mirrors through which Jerry saw his own evolution. Each one brought something different: raw honesty, fearless rebellion, quiet brilliance, or warm-hearted wit. They shaped the man who shaped a generation of comedy. In honoring them, Jerry reminds us that even the greatest comedians stand on the shoulders of those who came before. T is a beautiful circle, one built on laughter, love, and the courage to make people feel something real.